The NFL will hate what the Steelers are about to do as we have a massive update surrounding who they're going to be selecting with the first round pick that they have, and it is surrounding not only an elite wide receiver, but one that has fans absolutely fired up and the rest of the NFL terrified. I'm going to break down this bombshell new report and discuss what it means going forward, but not only that, we do have a ton of other updates, including them hosting another interesting meeting surrounding a safety that is projected to go early in the early in the first couple rounds, of course, but early in the draft. Ton to go over on this episode, folks, and you're going to want to stay tuned to the end of the video. There's a lot of news, but before we get into it, a quick thank you for all your guys' support. You've been absolute beasts. Now, folks, there is a ton of news to go over today, and we're going to be talking about a guy that I've been on the train for a while here, and that is a man, and we'll dive into prize picks later, by the name of Makai Lemon. You can see here, Makai Lemon, one of the top receivers in the draft, is officially visiting the Steelers today, and this took over the news cycle. It has officially been reported now that the top 30 draft meetings, they are visiting, or visits rather, they are visiting their camp, being Makai Lemon's camp, is visiting the Steelers today. And folks, he is ranked as the 13th best player in the draft and the second best wide receiver overall. And all of a sudden now, people are talking about the Steelers trading up. People are talking about him falling to the Steelers. We're going to dive into it all. But man, do I love this. There has been a ton of, pursuits of wide receivers by the Steelers when it comes to prospects. And Makai Lemon has been at the top of their list, and it has been for a while. And you can see here, we can date back to February 27th, where the Steelers initially met with Makai Lemon. And we'll dive into the player in a minute. But this is really, really good news, folks. And it's, of course, a top 30 visit. And let's dive into Makai Lemon as as a wide receiver. Now, you can see here from Jack Sperry, add Lemon to the list of projected first rounders to have both a combined formal and a top 30 visit with Pittsburgh. You can also add Makai Lemon, of course, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, and Denzel Boston. So those are three guys that at this point are extremely likely to be picked in the first round. Before we get into the rest of that and a very interesting note surrounding one of these players that many fans didn't expect, I want to let you know that this video is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app and the best way to get in on the action. And we're going to dive into some of my picks later on in the video. But in the meantime, make sure to use code DIGEST to sign up today. It helps out the channel a ton. There'll be a link in the description and the pinned comment. Thank you once again to Prize Picks for sponsoring this video. And make sure to stay tuned to the end of the video for my picks of the day. Now, folks, let's get right back to the news. Now, of course, they have had combined meetings in the sense of a formal and a top 30 visit with three of these guys. I'm happy with any of them, though obviously I'm leaning towards Makai Lemon at this juncture. But folks, you can see if Pittsburgh trades up for someone in round one this year, I think it could be Lemon. And it seems like a trade may be on the horizon here. I'm going to have a full video coming out probably tomorrow on the trade scenario. I'm just going to be diving into Makai Lemon as the player in this video because there's a real world where I don't think he follows the 21, but the Steelers have enough draft capital to where they can combine some of their picks. And a lot of people are talking about them, of course, combining their picks and moving up for next year's draft to get a quarterback. Very likely, very possible. They could also combine some of those picks, move up this year, grab Makai Lemon in the 10 to 15 range, and have one of the best wide receiving, trios or really one of the best wide receiving trios in football, and ultimately one of the best wide receiving cores going forward. Now, again, let's date back to February. Kind of the scouting report on Makai Lemon is hands are elite. He rarely drops balls, a true quarterback's best friend. He may only be 5'11", but he plays as if he is 6'8", which is crazy. He wins jump balls like his life depends on it. Doesn't lose speed when running his routes and breaks. A very good blocker, aggressive but has intent. Hands are active. I don't know if you could paint a better compliment to DK and Michael Pittman than Makai Lemon. You have somebody who rarely drops balls, can do, maybe what DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman aren't specialized in. Obviously, Michael Pittman and DK Metcalf, especially DK, they have insane tangibles, right? Like they have insane physical abilities and they're going to go out and have insane years. But if you can snag Makai Lemon, man, oh man, would that be fantastic. And you can see here from Nick Farabaugh, Lemon is projected to come off the board before the Steelers by many, but a very notable visit. There's also been some other, Marlon Klein, a tight end. But folks, I'm all in on Makai Lemon. Last year, 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns. Again, he is currently ranked the second best wide receiver in the draft, according to Mike DeFabo. Most people tend to agree with that. Cornell Tate, I believe, is probably number one. There's a lot of different, guys who you can ask. Some people have, Denzel Boston a lot higher than Makai Lemon. It's obviously a crapshoot at the end of the day. Like, the draft is not random by any means, but it is going to be very notable to see what happens. But again, they're also meeting with Denzel Boston, who I think is a perfectly fine option. Now, if they don't want to trade up and make a big splash, you can probably go ahead and just draft a guy like Denzel Boston and be, well off. But if they want to go for the big swing, Makai Lemon is that guy. Again, had an insane year last year and has just been a true, if you watch his film, delight to watch. Obviously for USC in the Big Ten, 12 games, 11 touchdowns, 1,100 yards. Obviously, just an insane player. Now, let's dive into who else they've met with. You can see here, they have scheduled a top 30 visit. These are all scheduled visits ultimately. We don't know exactly when or, when they're meeting with them. But safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren has officially been scheduled for a visit. He's 22, measured at 6'3", 201 pounds at the combine, and is currently viewed as a late first or early second round prospect. In 13 games, he accumulated 77 total tackles, 5.5 for a loss, a half a sack, some good numbers. I had a full video on him. The Steelers randomly don't have a ton of long-term depth at safety. You have your, the guys that are going to be playing next season, but outside of those guys, long-term, it would make some sense to go, if they think he's the best player available and they don't want to trade up, it would make some sense to go ahead and make a move for a guy like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, who, by the way, as much as it's not as flashy as Makai Lemon or some of the other guys like Denzel Boston, KC Conception, he is an extremely good talent, right? And you cannot understate that. And that's something that I don't think people, again, you don't hear as much about it because he's a safety. The Steelers do have their fair share of holes at this point, not a ton, but a couple. Obviously the offensive line, you still could use some work. I mean, you need a WR3, you need a quarterback. This doesn't immediately fill any need for this upcoming season with safeties you have in place. But what it does do is allow you to be a little bit more creative if you go with the safety with what you do in the future rounds, and you'll then also have to be more creative in filling the rest of the hole. So comment down below, would you be upset if the Steelers go ahead and get Emmanuel McNeil-Warren? Joel Schultz has reported they have a scheduled top 30 visit for him. And like I mentioned, it's Makai Lemon, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, and Merlin Klein. So I'm all in on Makai Lemon. I don't think they would have another pre-draft visiting with him and meeting with him if they didn't have some sort of idea on a way to get him, right? Because you're not going to get him with the 21st pick. It would be I guess it would be pretty stupid and arrogant maybe to think that if you, but again, they could just be doing their due diligence. I think at this point in time, it would be ignorant to believe, at least as a Steelers fan myself, that they're going to go ahead and draft him with the 21st pick. People would have to tank in the sense of people's draft stock would have to go down and they would have to really kind of fall off there. So it's going to be interesting to see ultimately what happens, folks. I mean, it's a crazy time. Another note as well, they also hosted UConn wide receiver Skylar Bell, which he's projected to be a 3rd round pick. So I'm hoping they don't go with him with him at the 1st round pick, but they're looking at a lot of different wide receivers. And I think the most likely outcome is they draft one in round 1 and then figure out the rest of the holes from there and consolidate some of their picks for next year's draft. Comment down below what your thoughts are on all of this. And before we wrap up, folks, I do want to go over my picks of the day. I'm going more for Colin Sexton, 8.5 rebounds and assists. I've been loving, him lately. Kevin Durant, more than 25.5 points, one of the best scorers of all time. He's going to keep crushing it. And Paul George, a sneaky one, more than 19.5 points. Folks, comment down below what your picks are. Thank you once again to Prize Picks for watching this video. Check them out in the pinned comment and the description. See you guys later.